All right, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of investing. Seriously, getting this wrong has probably caused people more money than just about any other mistake. We're going to break down the huge difference between volatility and actual risk. So let's just dive right in with a question. Picture this. You open your account and it is a sea of red. Everything's down 10% for the day. So did you actually lose money? Your stomach is probably in knots and your brain is screaming yes. But the honest answer is not yet.
You see, that loss is just on paper. It only becomes a real, actual, irreversible loss at the exact moment you hit the sell button. That's when you lock it in. So the damage isn't done by the market swings. The damage is done by the decision you make because of those swings. To really get our heads around this, we're going to use one big idea for this entire explainer. Think of your investing life as a long voyage across the ocean. What we really need to figure out is the difference between a bumpy ride from a few big waves and a full-on catastrophic shipwreck. So, let's start our journey. First things first, we have to frame investing for what it really is, a long-term trip with a very specific destination. When you set sail on a long voyage, you know it's going to take years, maybe even decades. And you know for sure that the ocean isn't always going to be a sheet of glass. You're going to have beautiful, sunny days for sure, but you're also going to have storms. No sailor on Earth expects a perfectly calm trip, and you shouldn't either. The whole game is about being ready for whatever the ocean throws at you and never losing sight of where you're headed.
Okay, so let's talk about those storms. In our story here, the choppy seas, the big swells, the waves that toss the boat around, that's what we call market volatility. At the end of the day, volatility is just the price of things moving up and down. That's it. It's the normal, totally expected part of the journey. It's so important to see these swings for what they are, just the natural rhythm of the market. It doesn't mean your ship is sinking. I love this quote from Morgan Housel because it just completely reframes the whole idea. Think about it. Volatility is the price you pay to get into the park. And if you're willing to pay it, the prize you get is better returns over the long run. It's not a fine, it's a fee. Now let's look at a really big wave. I mean, a massive, terrifying 95% drop. Just look at that number. It feels like a total catastrophe, right? The kind of thing you could never, ever come back from. Would you believe that 95% plunge was Amazon? Yeah, that Amazon, during the dot-com bust. It's now one of the most successful companies in human history. It just goes to show you, even the biggest, strongest ships will run into monster waves. Volatility spares no one. The legendary Charlie Munger put it even more bluntly. He basically said, if you can't watch your investment get cut in half and react with equanimity, which is just a fancy word for staying calm and composed, then you just aren't cut out for this. Having the right temperament isn't just a nice to have, it's a requirement. Okay, so we've established that waves are normal. A bumpy ride is part of the deal. But let's be honest, some ships do sink. So what's the real danger we should actually be worried about? What's the difference between a wave and a hole in the hull? This right here, this is the whole ball game. On the left, you've got volatility. Those are the waves. It's a bumpy ride, it's uncomfortable, but it is survivable. Now, on the right, you have risk. That is the hole in the hull of your ship. That's a total wreck. That's the kind of damage you just don't recover from. And this is the key. Real risk isn't your account value dipping for a while. Real risk is the permanent impairment of your capital. It's a loss that's irreversible. Your ship goes down and all the treasure goes down with it. Forever.
So you might be wondering, how often does that actually happen? How many ships really sink for good? Well, some research gives us a pretty sobering number.
That's right. Over half, more than half of all individual stocks, after they have a major drop, never climb back to their old high. Their voyage is just over. For those investments, the loss becomes permanent. That is a sunken ship. Okay, so this is the big question. If volatility is just waves, but permanent risk is real, what actually turns one into the other? What or who drills the hole in the hull of the boat? Well, the answer is a lot closer than you might think. It's fear. Fear is the destructive force. It's the alchemist that takes a temporary paper loss and transforms it into a very real, very permanent one. When the waves get really high and the storm is raging, fear is what tells you to panic and sell at the absolute worst possible time. And of course, psychologists have a fancy name for this: myopic loss aversion. It sounds complicated, but it's really simple. Myopic just means short-sighted. It means we humans feel the pain of a loss about twice as much as we feel the joy of a gain. So the more you check your portfolio when it's down, the more pain you feel, and the more likely you are to make a terrible decision. The great investor Seth Klarman just nails it here. The investors who lose are the ones who let their emotions take the wheel. They get swept up in the emotional storms of greed when things are high, and pure fear when things are low, and that causes them to do the exact opposite of what they should: buy high and sell low. So, how do we avoid this trap? How do we make sure we're the captain of the ship, calmly navigating the storm, instead of the terrified passenger ready to jump overboard? Well, it all comes down to mindset. And here's the final, most powerful shift in how we think about this. A truly skilled captain doesn't just put up with the waves. They understand them. They know how to work with the ocean's power. For you, as an investor, this means learning to see volatility not as a threat, but as an incredible source of opportunity. And who better to learn from than Warren Buffett? He puts it so simply. When he sees a wildly fluctuating market, he doesn't see danger. He sees a fantastic sale. He knows that other people's fear is causing them to sell wonderful businesses at ridiculously low prices. He sees a chance to buy, not a reason to panic. So we're going to end with this one thought. The waves are a given. The market will always have ups and downs. You can't control the ocean. The only thing you can possibly control is what you do inside your own boat. So the real question is, are you going to be the captain who calmly navigates the storm? Or are you going to be the one who, in a moment of fear, drills the very hole that sinks your own ship?